land of the long white cloud. Take every chance you get in life, because some things only happen once. Karen Gibbs. December 2015. The flight to Wellington was too short for me to fully regain my composure. Despite my efforts, I still felt rushed as we disembarked and entered the airport. Walking down the corridor towards immigration, I noticed imposing signs detailing declarations, plants, food, cigarettes, and more. The looming threats of substantial fines and penalties heightened my apprehension, particularly concerning the 5 packs of organic tobacco and the organic herbs I had brought from the farm. What about my hiking boots, I thought. I didn't know if that would be a problem. My nervous system was on high alert, and ultimately, I resolved to declare everything. When our turn came to address the customs officer, he inquired about the tobacco and spices I had listed on the declaration. I used a trick I had learned from Pierre and declared a portion of the restricted items. I claimed to have only 2 packs of tobacco and that the spices were all sealed and store-bought. I was in luck. Given the festive season approaching, he smiled and said Merry Christmas as he generously let us through without opening our bags. I felt a surge of relief. We stepped out of the airport and felt the stress of the day dissipate in the warm December air. New Zealand welcomed us with a splendid summer day. The prospect of exploring Wellington finally became an exhilarating reality. When we arrived at our accommodation on Willis Street, there was no place for the taxi to park, so he dumped us with our luggage onto the sidewalk and sped away. I stood in front of the building and let out a heavy sigh. The day had already proven quite lengthy, and it wasn't even lunchtime. I secured a budget-friendly room just a block away from Emilie's school. Our modest room was a part of a complex offering both short-term and long-term rentals, serving as a transitional space for individuals settling into the city. Each floor housed 9 rooms, equipped with private bathrooms and a shared kitchen. Our room, which was no more than 12 square meters, contained 2 single beds that we pushed up against the adjacent walls, a dresser, a counter, and a sink with a compact fridge. The carpet, an unappealing shade of blue, bore the stains of its previous occupants. I left Emilie to rest on our first day and embarked on a mission to find a suitable place to continue the training I had begun in China. I walked outside the main gate and up a steep hill on Nairn Street. I passed old wooden homes built in the early 1900s, and I admired their olden-day charm. At the summit of the hill, I found a park that overlooked the neighboring suburbs of Wellington. The city was spread out on lush, green, rolling hills, offering breathtaking views of the harbor. These scenic vistas not only captivated my senses, but also infused my soul with a new sense of purpose. The Pohutakawa trees were in full bloom surrounding the rectangular field. Native to New Zealand, the Pohutakawa tree is a distinctive and iconic evergreen tree known for its deep red blossoms. Commonly referred to as the New Zealand Christmas tree, it typically flowers in the southern hemisphere during the summer months, coinciding with the Christmas season. Often found on the wind-blown coastal cliffs where a seed takes hold and the tree clings to the rock facing the salt winds and southerly gales, Pohutakawa trees hold a cultural significance in the Maori tradition, symbolizing strength, endurance, and the spirit of the people. Nairn Park, with its serene surroundings, was the perfect place for me to train. The beauty and nature all around stood in sharp contrast to the concrete training grounds in China. As I removed my shoes to practice on the grass, I instantly felt the earth nourish my soul, grounding me. Despite the 5 years that had passed since our initial separation, I was still recovering from the impact of losing Pierre and the life I had in Panama. I had tried to process these feelings during my time in China, but I had simply been in survival mode and too depleted to fully confront my emotions. I was learning in Taoism that a fundamental principle is to embrace one's natural self and avoid the pressure to conform to others. As I trained in Nairn Park, my thoughts drifted back to my past life with Pierre and how much I had adapted myself to meet his expectations. It surprised me how deeply I was still affected by him, but somehow I knew that Nairn Park would play a pivotal role in rebuilding my strength and offer me the perfect environment to finally complete the healing process. Emilie quickly settled into Wellington High School, effortlessly building connections with both international students and locals. The New Zealanders, affectionately referred to as Kiwis, proved to be a welcoming and non-judgmental community. Emilie encountered no issues with bullying, and she thrived in her new environment. For the first time, I truly got to know my daughter. In the presence of her father and brother, she often effaced herself, but with the tranquility that settled between us, her voice became audible. Upon her return from school, she meticulously recounted the details of her entire day while we sat on our beds, forging a strong mother-daughter bond. These moments allowed us to establish a rapport that had previously eluded us, creating a deeper appreciation for one another. However, amidst these cherished moments, the reality of my financial situation began to press on me. As time went on, I found myself relying on borrowed time and money to sustain us. While I had enough to pay for school, we had to live simply. The support Pierre had provided was dwindling as he, understandably, focused on building a new life. As the financial strain grew, my thoughts often drifted back to him, and I wondered how he was doing and what his life was like with his new partner. My visa permitted me to work part-time on weekdays from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Despite the experience I'd had in the hotel business in Honduras, I only found weekend jobs that clashed with these limitations. While sitting with Emilie contemplating my next move, I heard voices rising up from the parking area below. I opened the large sliding window and leaned on the rail to hear better. I heard the manager and his assistant expressing dissatisfaction with the current cleaner's performance. While I might not have been particularly good at cleaning my own room, I had to figure out a way to earn a living while in New Zealand. So I seized the opportunity and applied for the cleaning position in our building that same day. They hired me on the spot and agreed to sign a work contract that aligned with my visa hours, even though I was expected to clean in the afternoons and on weekends. Working where I lived allowed me to be present for Emilie during her free time after school and on weekends. I was just one text message away if she needed me. The following day, I received the keys to the complex, which made me very happy. It felt like old times from the hotel in Honduras, although my manager didn't appreciate me acting important. "Loopy, you're just a cleaner," he said. "Don't let these keys go to your head." Initially, it didn't bother me that my manager called me Loopy. I knew I lived my life differently from the people in New Zealand, and my different way of doing things often puzzled him and others around me. I was excited to jump in and meet my work colleagues. I chatted with the sister of an older Filipino woman. She mentioned that her 64-year-old sibling cleaned the 9 kitchens in a single day every week. Impressed and a bit incredulous, I suggested that perhaps she might need some help, particularly with the ovens, which required a deeper clean. When the sister relayed my comments, the older woman felt insulted by my suggestion. She saw it as a critique of her capabilities rather than an offer for assistance. From that moment on, she turned on me, and her demeanor shifted from friendly to mean. She never spoke to me again and refused to work anywhere near me. If I happened to be cooking in the kitchen on my floor, she would not clean it that week. I tried to apologize to her on numerous occasions, but she wouldn't even look at me. This incident reminded me of past experiences where my enthusiasm and well-meaning suggestions had inadvertently cost me friendships and stirred up trouble. Do we ever truly outgrow ourselves? I wondered heavily. My main responsibility revolved around preparing rooms for the next occupants, with a particular focus on checkouts. I collected all the belongings left behind: blankets, towels, pillows, plates, and cups, and organized them in boxes, and furniture that I took from other rooms. Keeping the room full made me feel more at home, and despite the abundance of items, we still had room to practice our dance routines. There were several memorable incidents during my time working and caring for the people who lived in the accommodation complex. On one occasion, a tenant pulled the fire alarm, and we all had to evacuate the building, and it was my job to give the firemen access. The Kiwis drink too much beer, and they all have fat bellies, even the firefighters, I exclaimed to Emilie as we watched them go into the building to check for fire. I was disappointed that the firefighters weren't as handsome in real life as they were on TV, but Emilie just looked at me with her indifferent stare and her arms crossed while standing on the sidewalk outside our building. Another time, my manager called me to give support to a ladyboy resident who had a neurosis about bugs and attempted suicide. I stayed by their side while they sat naked with only a towel, dousing their body with bleach until an ambulance finally arrived. I helped a young Kiwi man recover from the shock of his Chinese girlfriend's sudden deportation, giving him moral support and guiding him to clean up their room. Despite the negative incidents with the older Filipino woman, and the bullying and name-calling from my manager, my interactions with the residents in the building complex gave me a sense of gratification and meaning to my job.